Let me promote him to a panelist. Good evening, Commissioner Kelly. Good evening, Commissioner Kelly.
Good evening.
All right. We are ready to start. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Opa-Locka Virtual Regular Commission meeting. I call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass?
I'm here.
Commissioner Burke?
Here.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Mayor Pygott?
I am here. Madam Attorney, can you state the emergency protocols that govern this meeting?
Sure. Pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69 and subsequent amendments issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location and utilizing communications media technologies such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.545B2 of the Florida statutes. The members of the City Commission appearing remotely for this meeting are Vice Mayor Davis, Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Kelly, and Mayor Pygott. An opportunity was given to the public to email the city clerk prior to this commission meeting. The city clerk will state for the records at the appropriate time whether there have been any questions, comments, concerns on the items you'll hear on this evening's meeting agenda. The meeting is being streamed live at https://www.youtube.com/user/City of Opa-Locka.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Commissioner Bass, you want to lead us in invocation?
Yes, sir. Father, we bless your name today. We give you honor. We give you glory. We thank you, Lord God, for our city. God, we thank you for our residents. Father, we thank you for everyone that's sitting on the dais. We thank you for the employees. Father God, we ask you that you would grant us this day wisdom, knowledge, revelation, and understanding. Help us, oh God, to be leaders, oh God, that you will be proud of. God, we ask you all these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Vice Mayor, you want to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
Sir, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any awards, proclamations, or acknowledgements?
No, Mr. Mayor, we don't have any.
All right. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month here in the City of Opa-Locka. I want to make sure we take a moment to acknowledge that, all the survivors, all the people that have invested in research to that. And I want to open the floor if any of my colleagues have any words or anything for breast cancer awareness.
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for highlighting, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I myself lost my grandmother to breast cancer, my paternal grandmother. So it's always, something near and dear to my heart. So, thank you for recognizing that. And also thank you, Commissioner, for wearing pink in celebration and commemorance of people we, have lost during this month to that certain ailment. So again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, anybody who's dealing with, breast cancer, my my heart goes out. It's a tough disease to deal with. And just keep fighting, man. Keep fighting a good fight. Thank you.
Commissioner Bass.
If I may add to that, just to remind everyone to make sure you get your yearly check breast examinations, because it can and it will save your life. And to add to that, be reminded that men also have breast cancer sometimes. So we all need to be careful. Thank you.
Mayor Packard?
Commissioner Burke?
Yes. Each and every year, I wear pink for breast cancer in remembrance of my older sister. I lost my older sister to breast cancer. So, you know, I dress out in my pink as many times as I can in the month of October. Thank you for giving us this time to refresh our memories. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, just want to echo my colleagues' sentiments. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and also domestic violence for that matter. But I always look forward to Commissioner Burke wearing his pink and he got on his hat tonight. You know, normally we would be in the auditorium, we would have our pink on and have it decorated. But again, it is, as Commissioner Bass said and the Vice Mayor, we need to remember those who not only lost their lives, but those that continue to battle with it. So it's a great opportunity to reflect and to remember and to know the city of Opa-Locka is not forgotten about this time of the year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly, and thank everyone for your words. It is unfortunate that we're not in person to be able to celebrate people that have triumphed over breast cancer and honor those that have subdued to it, and to make sure that the awareness is acknowledged. But we do want to do what we can as a commission. So we do have another meeting, so we look forward to more information. And also we want to acknowledge domestic violence awareness during this month, as Commissioner Kelly said, so that we can ensure that that atrocity stops and people understand that there's a lot of people suffering due to domestic violence at this moment. So thank you very much to the commission. Let's move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have any pulls, deletions, or deferrals? All right. Hearing no pulls, deletions, or deferrals, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Paget.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kelly. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Mayor Paget.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Do I have a motion to approve the virtual second budget hearing minutes for September 23rd, 2020?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Burke.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Davis. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Paget.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Do I have a motion to approve the virtual regular commission meeting minutes for September 23rd, 2020?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kelly. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Paget.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Do I have a motion to approve the virtual special commission meeting minutes for September 30th, 2020?
Move
Move
it.
it.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Paget.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Madam Clerk, do we have a report from District 1 or District 2?
No, Mr. Mayor, we do not.
Right. Do we have a public presentation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have, no, I'm sorry, we have public comments, no public presentation.
All right. Now it's time for a citizens forum. Madam Clerk, could you please go over the protocols that govern the submission for citizens forum and also for the time that they have in this setting?
Yes, so the public had an opportunity to provide public comments by 5 p.m. today via email at publiccomments@opalockafl.gov or by registering in advance to join the meeting for live comments via Zoom webinar. There is a 3-minute time frame for public comment. And at this time, if I can go ahead with the public comments, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Yes.
Okay, so the first one I have is from Mr. Stedman Stahl. He's the president of the South Florida Police Benevolent Association, the PBA, and it reads as follows. Dear Ms. Flores, please allow this letter to be read into the record and placed in the record for the City of Opa-Locka City Commission meeting on Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. While City Manager John Pate has only been the City Manager of Opa-Locka for a relatively short period of time, as the president of the South Florida Police Benevolent Association, I and my staff have in that time had numerous interactions with Mr. Pate regarding the Opa-Locka Police Department. While we do not always agree on an end result, it is without a doubt that Mr. Pate has the best interest in the City of Opa-Locka in mind. He is the only city manager in recent years that has sought to establish a partnership with the PBA and work with the PBA and the brave men and women who keep your community as safe as possible in these trying times. And in doing so, we have been able to resolve several issues. Through his restructuring of the leadership of the police department and allocating funding towards a new fleet of police vehicles, other equipment, and training for officers, the department's morale is on the increase. His law enforcement background has brought a much needed level of expertise that has allowed your police department to be better prepared and better trained than it has in recent memory. While funding is always limited, especially that which can be allocated to salaries and benefits, we believe he is well on his way with your approval to reinstate prior benefits that have been lost and providing for a reasonable pay structure that will allow for the recruitment and retainment of quality police officers while at the same time keeping in mind the limited resources of any governmental entity. We at the PBA believe that the progress he has made in his short tenure thus far is only a silver of the good he can bring to this community. And we look forward to working with him in the years to come. Sincerely, Stedman Stahl, President of the South Florida PBA. And the next public comment, Mr. Mayor, is from Lieutenant Sergio Perez, Administration and Special Operations, Opa-Locka Police Department, 780 Fisherman Street. Ms. Flores, I am respectfully requesting that this letter be read and placed into the record for and during the commission meeting being held on Wednesday, October 14, 2020. As a tenured member of our police department, I would like to begin by thanking our mayor and commission for their public service, specifically for recruiting and selecting Mr. Pate as our city manager. Having been employed with our police department for many years, I have witnessed our city undergo many changes in leadership. Over the last year or so, I have also witnessed unprecedented progress in our city, but more so in our police department. Mr. Pate has stood firm in his resolve in bringing about change and resolution to so many issues that have transgressed on for so many years. It would be merely an understatement to say in simple form that the members of the police department and I support him. It is because of this reason that I felt compelled to write to you today in this forum. I believe we have reached a milestone and have significant headway in making our department into a premier law enforcement agency, progress that is largely attributed to Mr. Pate. Through his leadership, commitment, dedication, and expertise, Mr. Pate has effected transformational changes to the police department that has left our agency and officers more equipped and better prepared more than we have been in many years. Mr. Pate is a champion for law enforcement, but more importantly, he's a champion for Opa-Locka. And because of these reasons, I stand firm in my support of him as our city manager. Thank you, Sergio Perez, Administration's Lieutenant. And I have several others that I need to pull up. Just a moment, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so this next public comment is from Lieutenant Jenkins, Opa-Locka Police Department, 780 Fisherman Street, Suite 316, Opa-Locka, Florida. Mr. Pate, I would like to show my profound gratitude for the experience that I have gained from you. Thank you for the knowledge, leadership, and guidance that you have provided to our agency. Words can neither qualify or quantify how your leadership has played a pivotal role in the redevelopment of this city and police department. Thank you for believing in me as I have expressed my vision, mission, and dedication to lead this agency. You are our biggest advocate and supporter, and within the last 15 years, I personally have never experienced some extraordinary. You have instilled in me that one will never be able to please everyone, but by leading with love, you work even harder to soften the hearts of those who seem forever damaged and embittered. Since August 14th, you have taught us how to be fair, address challenges, be transparent, and to fight for what's right for all that's involved. The mountains that we have moved within this short period of time and the true happiness that is here from the majority of our agency shows the necessary skills and determination that a true leader must possess. Very proud to say that's something that can never be taken away from me. Again, thank you for your professional guidance and leadership skills. Ending, I will never forget what you tell Lieutenant Perez and myself every day. When they go low, we will forever and always continue to go high. And I have one more, Mr. Mayor. This public comment is from Lawrence Hallborough, City of Opa-Locka Police Department, 780 Fisherman Street, Opa-Locka, Florida. I have decided to write this letter to the Mayor and City Commission of the City of Opa-Locka expressing what I have observed within the past couple of months. When things are not going right, people will write letters immediately expressing their distaste for whatever is going on that they do not agree with. It is exceedingly rare that people will write letters when things are moving along well. This city has had numerous police chiefs and city managers within my time here in Opa-Locka. As in any corporation, or in this case, city government, continuous turnovers like this spell dysfunction. When you have dysfunction, you cannot establish civilization, which is needed in any organization to thrive. Serving as a law enforcement officer in this era is a major task, and leadership is needed to get through these tough times. My fellow officers and I are on the street every day trying to make the streets safe for our residents, and it is not easy when you're dealing with a health pandemic. Violent crime is surging, and there does not seem to be an end in sight. Vehicles are breaking down, uniforms are falling apart, and morale is at an all-time low. While dealing with a copy of an evaluation report of this department that was conducted by Miami-Dade County Police Department is made available for review, and the report basically says what most of us already knew. The department failed in every category evaluated, and the dysfunction was spelled out. Finally, decisions were made to make changes, and this is why I decided to write this letter of appreciation and support regarding those decisions that have been made. The Mayor and City Commission made a bold step in conducting a nationwide search for city manager, and thus John Pate was chosen. No one knew who this person was. Everyone knew he was not from Florida. Your decision was the right one for this city and for its police department. Change was needed. After reviewing the damaging county assessment report on the police department, changes were implemented, and when the implementation fell off the track, swift changes were made to bring leadership and a new vision to this agency. Well, I am here to tell you that the changes are working in record time. The city manager decided to revamp the department, which required letting some people go and demoting and promoting others. I can tell you the new administration is working. The new lieutenants have been working tirelessly with the assistance of Manager Pate and moving the department in the right direction. As I said in the beginning of this letter, vehicles were down. Well, all of the vehicles that were sitting around in the parking lot of the motor pool were repaired and put out on the road within 2 weeks of the administration change. Uniform companies, should I continue, Mr. Mayor?
How much more do you have?
A couple of paragraphs.
Are you able to summarize it? We want to make sure we respect the limitation of 3 minutes equally.
So basically, well, actually it's more than a couple of paragraphs, and I have not read through this at all. This is my first time reading it, but I believe overall this is in support of the city manager and the decisions he's made in with the police department, which Mr. Harborough believes is going in the right direction for the city of Opa-Locka.
All right, thank you. And that letter is on file and it can be read and accessed for those that want to see the rest of it. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct.
All right. Is there anything any other citizens here for Citizens Forum?
I don't have anyone else that I'm aware of, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. Leave the floor open for our commission. Any responses to the comments made during Citizens Forum?
Mayor Paget?
Commissioner Bass?
Thank you. I just want to say it's a breath of fresh air to sit here and to listen to the comments that has been made towards our city manager and our city at large. I've been here for over 30 years, and this is the first time I can recall not hearing something negative about our police department. It just thrills me to know that there are some good people out there, that there's some good leadership out there, that our police department morale is on the high, that they can see what's going on in the city, most especially the police department. And me personally, I would just like to say thank you to all of you in the police department who are putting your lives on the line for us on a daily basis. I thank you so much. And I just pray that wisdom supersede personal interest. And thank you.
Mayor Paget?
Commissioner Burke?
I'm just sort of puzzled. When you're hearing these kind of accolades and everything, maybe I should be asking Mr. Pate, is there's a problem? There's a problem with his job, or is he planning on going someplace, or somebody told him he was going someplace? I mean, when you start hearing, and don't get me wrong, I mean, you've heard from the South Florida PBA, and you heard from his command staff. I mean, they're not telling me anything that I don't know, but I'm just saying, when you hear those kind of accolades, it's I don't know. Maybe I'm just being negative, but usually that sounds like trouble. Is there any trouble with Mr. Pate's job, or is Mr. Pate going any place? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Any other comments from the commission? All right. I want to thank those that have taken the time to submit during Citizens Forum. It is good to see hear the reaction of our police department and the PBA in response to this commission's decision to appoint and select Mr. Pate as our as our city manager. It goes and shows the accolades that he's done in his investigation throughout the city. I know that police department and changes in the police were the first major investigation into the departments, and we have investigations going on all throughout, and changes going on throughout the city of Opa-Locka, and we look forward to seeing the continued progress in each one of those areas, and look forward to doing that. So during Citizens Forum, I encourage our residents to make sure we leverage this time to participate and let your voices be heard at this moment. After the manager's report, we'll talk more about where we are as a city and some other things that I know that are pertinent to what's been going on in the city in the past few weeks. So I want to thank everyone that has participated in Citizens Forum. Any other comments before we move on? All right, let's move on to our action items. Madam Attorney.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-Locka, Florida, approving an amendment of the development agreement between the City of Opa-Locka and Centerpoint Properties Trust to construct a tractor-trailer truck parking facility on the vacant lot identified by Folio 08-2129-018-0010 and 30-2129-018-0010 in the I-3 zoning district and attached as Exhibit A hereto, providing for approval, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
All right, this is a public hearing item. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
No, Mr. Mayor, but we do have a representative from Centerpoint that is here tonight to speak on behalf of this item.
Okay. All right. Do we want to move? So well, let's make a motion to put the item on the floor, have management introduce the item, and then we'll bring on our guest here. And who is the person that will be speaking?
Brian Hollings.
Got it. Okay. Just want to make sure so I can see this correctly. All right. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Burt. Mr. Manager, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll allow Mr. Gay in Community Development to introduce the item and introduce the guest that will be speaking on this item today. Mr. Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. To the Mayor and Commissioners, Gregory Gay. This is an item that's come before you once before regarding this particular property, which is on the southwest area of the city of Opa-Locka. This is for a truck parking facility. You have already reviewed and approved the site plan for this particular site, and you have already reviewed a development agreement relating to this truck parking facility at this particular location. Since that time, the developers and the property owners have had some changes regarding the development agreement, and those changes we felt were significant enough that they needed to be brought back before you in order to keep you informed as to what's occurring on this particular site. Some of the things that the initial development agreement had spoke on was to prevent certain types of vehicles to be stored on the site, and that was just a part of the agreement itself. Some of the vehicles that were listed at that time was construction excavators and things related to construction development. Since that time, the developer has viewed some things, and Mr. Brian Hollis is here to address any of those particular questions that you may have. But in essence, the changes that they have made as it relates to the development agreement is still the type of uses that would be allowed within the zoning category itself. So it was just in the best interest of being transparent to all above relating to this particular project. We wanted to bring the development agreement back before you for consideration. Staff does recommend approval for the development agreement as it is presented. If you have any questions or concerns, or if you'd like Mr. Hollings to speak on this item, he can do so at this time.
All right, Mr. Hollings, if you are on and available, you can turn on your camera and your mic and speak.
Hey, thank you, commissioners, for seeing this tonight. My name is Brian Hollings with Centerpoint Properties. This came before you probably a year ago. And since that time, the market has changed quite a bit, and we're just kind of addressing to what the market demand is. So the market is kind of more of a storage yard. Originally, we came in for just trailer storage, and since then the market has changed quite a bit. And now we're just asking for temporary storage of some construction equipment. A lot of the users we're seeing are third-party, like FP&L. They work with FP&L to restore power, light poles, and stuff like that during hurricanes and other events. So we're just asking for a little more expansion on the growth of what we can actually lease it to somebody. So what we're asking for basically is temporary storage of construction equipment, including backhoes and stuff like that. But with that, I think we asked as part of our concessions to keep anything 150 feet from between the fence from the right of way back 150 feet. You won't see any kind of storage or any kind of trailers permanently there. And also we're going to, as you may look through the packet, we're heavily landscaping and screening that whole facade along 123rd right there. So you will not be able to see anything in there. We're also providing a small office building that's for the users. So this, state of the art. So everybody has the facilities to use. So we're just asking for a little more allowance on what we could do to lease it to somebody so we can get it a lease. It's presently under construction. We're anticipating being complete at the end of December. I'll take any questions if there's anything.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hollings. We'll bring this proposal to us. The floor is open for discussion. Any discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Kelly.
I heard Mr. Gay say that the use is still allowed, but they brought it back to us just out of, I guess, I don't know, deference. But anytime we've seen to have these kinds of possible uses, they tend not to measure out. In the past, we've had where people are going to store equipment, going to store temporary, whatever, and things become permanent. And the beautification, landscaping, or whatever, which is really on us to make sure it's enforced, doesn't occur. As a part of this agreement, since they're changing, in my opinion, what's going to be there, temporary equipment, etc. The landscaping that they're proposing, I don't remember off the top of my head. If staff could enlighten me, what kind of landscaping coverage is going to be? I heard him say it's going to be a setback 150 feet, etc. But what kind of landscaping is a part of that agreement already?
Yes, through the manager, there was going to be a significant amount of landscaping. As you already know, part of the site is pretty much somehow controlled, or access to it is somewhat limited. It is right next to the rail spurs that are associated with Tri-Rail, so that you have limited accessibility to the site, and there are additional rail spurs that come onto the site as well. Most of the landscape will be pretty much some type of large vegetation native to Miami-Dade County, and it would be most appropriate for this particular location.
Okay, and Mr. Mayor, again, I heard the use temporary usage. So is the intent to use the property temporarily because the market has changed just for this temporary storage of equipment and or vehicles, et cetera. Is that the way the agreement is written up with the word temporary? And they were going to come back later on with something else?
Through the manager, I'm looking at some of the terminology right now. I do not. Let me just check that for a second. If you have any other questions, I can address those. But I'm checking the agreement as it is right now.
Well, I don't have more questions, so I'll wait to hear my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Thank you. Yeah, so just to kind of start, I guess we've already approved site plan, developers agreement, and I guess as a good faith, item. They're bringing it back to us to just kind of have us consider the challenges and the changes that have taken place, which includes, I guess, a change in what's actually being stored. So we're moving from I guess trailers we had at first, and now we're moving to store equipment. In my opinion, I think I really didn't have a problem with the trailers. I think we all was pretty much in agreement with that. I think the equipment, in my opinion, I think it's a different scenario. Equipment is a little more loosely defined and could speak to actually a lot of options. So in my opinion, I think I know that they have plans and provisions in place, I guess, to do some sort of beautification and to have the equipment at a certain footage from the right of way or any streets or anything. So drivers that are passing by ultimately can't see it. But I'm not really in favor of just kind of leaving it I guess as loosely defined as that. Similarly to Commissioner Kelly's point of we just put things in place and there's really no enforcement to it, and it's ultimately up to us to hold those that take those actions accountable. I mean, I'm not really in support of the the equipment. Yeah, and that's just because I just don't feel like we're going to be able to enforce it. So I'll hear from the rest of my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke?
Mr. Mayor, listening to Mr. Gay and listening to Mr. Hollings, a lot of times when we have construction going on in the city, especially with FP&L would I can remember going down Wilmington Street. We had equipment sitting out there next to the lake for some time with FP&L. Then when you got construction companies doing construction in the city, they don't really have no places to keep their equipment if they're coming from afar. So, they're saying it's going to be temporary. There's no, Mr. Gay said this type of use is allowed. So rather than the people storing their equipment on the side of the street or in the street, I would rather them have some place where they can take their equipment and have their equipment secured and don't have to worry about any harm coming to their equipment. Mr. Gay said it's going to be a temporary thing. We know the trailers are going to be there, but if it's allowed, it's better the equipment being stored someplace where the companies that doing construction in the city don't have to worry about their equipment leaving. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I could address Commissioner Kelly's inquiry. Within the development agreement under development conditions, section 9H, within that section, it does speak to storing and temporary staging of generators, cranes, erection material, and other construction equipment shall be permitted. So it does speak to storing and temporary staging.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kelly?
so it speaks to temporary cranes and it gives you a list of things that can be stored there, but temporary being out the words, that could be continual.
Well, if I may cut in, sorry, this is Brian. I have permission to address Mr. Kelly's.
Hollings, I got you. One moment. Commissioner Kelly, are you done?
Well, I'm still, no, I'm not done if you can answer the question, but yeah, I want to get an answer to my question.
So that's a question to Mr. Hollings, our Centerpoint representative. Or is that to our
Well, it was to, that one was to Mr. Gay, but if he wants to let someone speak, because I'm still trying to understand temporary, because when I look in the agreement, temporary use of allowing equipment, but then now you're talking cranes, etc. So is that the full intent of the use of this property, just totally temporary storage? But that goes to the point of Commissioner Burke. It's just going to be a place where people can come and rent because they're in the city, although I don't think it's worded that way. Then we're not going to see anything else developed on this property other than just for use of storage. Is that what Mr. Gay is interpreting, or how he's interpreting that section he just mentioned?
Mr. Gay?
Through the mayor, my interpretation of this as a part of the agreement is that the primary use for this particular property is for the storage of tractors and trailers. That's going to be the primary use. In addition to that, on an as-need basis and on a temporary basis, they will have the opportunity to allow for the storage of construction equipment and the likes, which are allowed within this particular zoning category. So they will be able to have that additional type of storage, but the primary storage will be for the parking of tractors and trailers.
Okay, to me, that gives them more option than we have, because temporary to me is really either way how you interpret it. But thank you, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. So for me, I'm going to share where this property is at so we can get an understanding of what property we're talking about. It's actually in the back towards the canal on basically 127th and a railroad. And in terms of the storage of equipment back in that, I'm okay with that because I think, as Commissioner Burke brought up very clearly, it would provide an opportunity for people to stage things outside of our residential areas, outside of any other areas, in a place here in the city of Opa-Locka that's away, basically in the cut. The concern, though, is that in these surrounding areas, there are other facilities, and it says materials. And I'm wondering, well, does materials constitute basically construction materials such as dirt and gravel, and those things that would that can blow over to other properties, Mr. Gay?
Okay. Through the manager, also stated within the agreement, it is basically stated that the owner shall prohibit the storage of asphalt or raw materials such as stone, sand, or gravel on that particular site. So those particular materials will not be allowed.
Thank you very much. And with that, and it has my support to move forward. And is there any other discussion on this item or any other comments on this?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say that was my concern. I thought equipment, in my opinion, was very loosely defined and could encompass many things. So just wanted to know exactly what's being included. So with that, I agree. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Madam Clerk?
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Baz,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Hollings. Thank you very much for bringing this development to our community and to further develop our industrial areas and provide opportunities for people that want to do business in Opa-Locka to put their stuff in a nice place. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You have a good. All right, Madam Attorney.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-Locka, Florida, amending the annual adopted general proprietary and special revenue funds budgets for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2019 and ending September 30th, 2020, adjusting revenues and expenditures as reflected in Exhibit A, providing for the expenditure of funds established by the budget, authorizing the city manager to take certain actions, providing for an appropriation of all budgets and expenditures, providing for fees consistent with appropriations and amendment, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflict and repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
All right, this is ordinance, public hearing ordinance. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, with that, do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Burke,
Second.
second by Commissioner Kelly. The floor is, well, Mr. Manager, this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll defer presentation to our budget administrator, Mr. Robert Anathan.
Thank you, Manager. Good evening. It's Bob Anathan, Budget. Just by way of background, the fiscal year did end on September 30th, but under the financial rules that all municipals operate under, all municipalities operate under. I'm sorry. The city is permitted to make budget amendments all the way through November 30th. Past practice, I believe, is that there's been a very large budget amendment that's done in November. Proposed to do it a little bit differently this year, take two bites out of the apple. The intent is to start the amendment process with this meeting and have a second budget amendment in November. This allows the commission to digest it a little more easily. It's also a courtesy to the state staff because the state staff has to go through it all. And if they get the whole larger amendment at the end of November, it really puts them under the gun. So what we're proposing to do tonight is to break it in two parts. And with that, I will move on to it. There are 31 items in this budget amendment. There are four, most of them are house cleaning, making small adjustments to things like overtime and small items like that. There are a couple that are larger. They have to do with salaries, which, for example, we thought we had intended that they be allocated over several departments. In fact, they were not allocated. So we have to readjust the budget to where the charge is actually being recorded. There are four that I'd like to bring to your attention. I'll get to the first one, and then I'll make another quick digression. In the packet, item number 3 has to do with increasing other contract services for roads and streets. There's some normal year-end activity we didn't see coming, but also we're increasing it due to part of the city beautification project. Includes such things as picking up in the parks, includes pressure washing of some of the main roadways. It includes $20,000 for starting to clean up Cairo Lane. So in total, that's $80,000. But as I said, a lot of it relates to the emphasis on city beautification. So you're beginning to see motion in a direction that I think you're interested I'm going to address budget items number 7 and 9, but again, I'm going to address very quickly. I think you all are familiar with the fact there is something called the Special Law Enforcement Fund. That is money that accrues to the city because they're involved in criminal activity and which have resulted in seizures and forfeitures. As of the FY18 audit, there was over $600,000 in that fund. There is a limitation on it by the Department of Justice. It says it can be used, but you should not reduce your own budget by virtue of using it. In this case, this is addition to the budget rather than reducing the city's budget. On to what you heard earlier about the re-energizing the renovation of the police department. The new command staff looked around and decided that really the department had been underfunded for way too long. The money that's available within the Special Law Enforcement Fund can be used for that purpose. I also point out that when we talk about the general fund, we talk about a minimum fund balance. This fund does not have a minimum fund balance requirement. So in theory, the entire $600,000 can be used as long as it's used properly. The new command staff went out, and what they've done is they, in budget amendment item number 7, they looked around and recognized that they had a real lack of equipment in the general category called police safety equipment. So one of the budget amendments tonight is addressing $100,000 in expenditures for things like evidence kits, first aid kits, flashlights, tasers, things of that nature. In total, about $100,000. So that's budget item number 7. Budget item number 9 again goes to what you heard before about the condition of basically uniforms and everything else. The proposal tonight is to spend another $110,000 out of the Special Law Enforcement Fund to address all sorts of uniform needs, raincoats, and again, for the entire force. So the numbers we're talking about are 50 of this, 50 of that. So it involves special uniforms for your new street crime unit. It involves rain gear. It involves body armor and so forth. So between the two, we're talking about $210,000. Again, that's from a fund that has an available fund balance of $660,000.
Mr.
Mr.
Anathan, are you reading from some type of presentation or a document that you can share?
No, sir, I'm not. I'm just running from memory and some notes I have to my side here.
All right, thank you.
So that is 3 of the 4 that I'd like to bring to your attention. The 4th one is item number 18, and that is a adjustment to patrol regular salaries. Regular salaries is really meant to be the pay for the 80 hours. The 2 weeks of pay, 84 hours now, 80 hours previously. What has happened this year is that there have been a lot of accounting things that were not lined up properly. So consequently, we've got an awful lot of overtime in this category, which should have gone elsewhere. We have in here what's called a longevity bonus that should have gone to a separate account. It didn't. And also things like the sale of unused leave time and so forth. In a normal world, I would expect the budget, I think as was established, although I don't have the details on it, was probably understated by 100, 150,000. Because of these other issues, we're talking about having to adjust these regular pay of this particular division by 450,000. I said it's primarily due to charges that ended up in this line item that really should have gone elsewhere. So it's a large number. It looks scary, but as I said, I think most of it is attributable to overtime, much of which is going to be reimbursed through FEMA. So that really is the 4 major items within the 31 budget items in this budget amendment. So unless there are any further questions, I have nothing further to add at this point.
All right, Mr. Manager, do you have anything else?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Anathan, Mr. Manager, for the detailed analysis of this ordinance on this budget amendment. The floor is open for discussion.
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you. Just want to echo your comments. Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Anathan, and to our whole team. Thank you guys. Glad to see that this budget amendment puts in progress, much needed changes and improvements to our parks and police department, and ensuring that, we are a respectable government and that we are addressing the needs of our community. So thank you for that.
Mayor,
Mr. Kelly.
thank you. To the manager and to Mr. Anthem, I'm grateful that with the budget amendment, especially with the funding for the beautification and obviously parks and some of the other line items that's shoring up. So I really want to commend you for that going forward, and also splitting it up as opposed to having the one big budget amendment. I think it'll make it better for the commission also to weigh in as you approach the next one with any changes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, are we ready to move with this budget amendment? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Baz,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Burke, Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 first reading.
All right. Could we, someone, IT reach out to Commissioner Burke and make sure he's not having any technical difficulties at the moment? Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. With that, Madam Attorney, our final item.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-Locka, Florida, amending Chapter 13 of the City of Opa-Locka's Code of Ordinances entitled Licenses and Business Regulations, Article 10, 11, 12, 15, 14, entitled Landlord Permit, specifically amending Section 13-2743 to require that all apartment buildings with 150 units or more be required to have on-site 24-hour armed off-duty police officer security, amending Section 13-278-5B to require permit applicants with 150 or more apartment units to complete a separate form to be created by city containing an acknowledgement that a daily log will be kept containing the name of the on-site armed off-duty police officer before a permit shall be issued, providing for adoption of representations, providing for a conflict and repealer, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the City Manager, Commissioner Kelly, and Vice Mayor Davis.
Public hearing item. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments for this? All right. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Davis. As the sponsor of this item, Manager, Vice Mayor, Commissioner Kelly, whoever wants to introduce the item, feel free.
I'll take it, Mr. Mayor. So this item, actually, ironically, a year and 13 days ago, the commission visited this item in mandating armed security at various apartment complexes within the city. And at that time, the measure was correct in regards to certain complexes. But what we have tend to learn through this year is we've experienced an exceptionally large amount of violent crime, both at Glorieta Gardens and the Cordova Apartments. And so an advisement of the police department, as well as advisement, speaking to Commissioner Kelly and having conversations with the Vice Mayor, thought it would be prudent to make apartment complexes with 150 more occupants actually have mandated police. So actually have law enforcement on site compared to security. in that'll quell the crime that's in that area. It will actually reduce manpower in the area because now I'm stationing an officer to be out there on those properties that are patrolling. So this puts an off-duty officer out there, not an on-duty officer out there. The officer is actually able to take action, make arrests at the time, and actually looks like both Cordova and Glorieta is gonna voluntarily go with it. So we thought in order to keep them true to their word, that's mandated, and kind of move in that direction. So this is where this comes from. The recent uptick of violent crime over the summer in Cordova, all the guns and drugs that have been recovered at Cordova, and so, as well as Glorieta, over the last 90 days has been quite amazing to me. And so I think taking this effort and to move our public safety mission forward, especially for our residents that feel like they're held hostage within their residence, I think it's prudent to bring forward. Commissioner Kelly brought this to my attention maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. Commissioner Kelly can correct me. And I know the Vice Mayor's brought it up as well, and I thought it was an opportune time to bring it before the commission to get passed.
All right. Does any of the other sponsors have any words on this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly?
thank you. The manager said most of it all. I just would hope that we would pass this and put it into action, because we cannot, police every place. We cannot be everywhere. I applaud the efforts that, we took to kind of downscale or put a lid on it or curb the efforts that have been going on in some of these areas. But we need something of a long-term plan and a commitment from those who own those complexes. So I've been talking about it before, and I'm glad to see it's on the agenda, and I hope it will have the support. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Vice Mayor, do you have any words on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just want to say thank you, as always, to Commissioner Kelly for sponsoring the item. It was originally created, to try to curb, violent activities within two residential communities here in Opa-Locka. And I think since that time, the security measures we all know that it wasn't adequate enough, because, the crimes didn't stop. They probably even got worse, maybe, in my opinion. So I'm glad to see, we're here at a point where now the apartment owners are even, thinking of, of having police, instead of security. So I'm hoping, long term that, this curbs some of the violence and some of the crimes that been occurring in our community. And again, thank you to the manager for and our police department for doing the work. And Commissioner, thank you as well for sponsoring the act.
All right, floor is open for discussion. Any discussion on this item? All right. When this item initially was brought up last year, I did vote in dissent of it due to the fact that it applied to apartment complexes that have over 40 units. Since that time, this current legislation brings that up to 150. And with that 150, that limits many of the other housing units that do not have a lot of these issues with crime out of it. But at the same time, Mr. Manager, could you just state for the record what who would be impacted, what properties would be impacted by this? How many properties will be impacted by this? That's what.
So right now, 3 properties are going to be impacted by this. First reading of the ordinance. I'm looking to make one more revision that may decategorize another property, but we're still in further development. This is why it's in first reading. We did get crime stat information that was provided and review it. We have reviewed it, and we'll be getting with the city attorney with additional changes by the second reading.
Yeah, I think the intent of the item and the ordinance, I have full support to try and reduce the amount of crime, and especially violent crime that we have concentrated in certain areas across the city. So I appreciate us taking that time. But one thing I want to make sure that we're clear about, this is a law, and a law that will be on our books and for ever unless it is repealed, which means if we do have developments that come in over 150 that cater to, say, a very luxury type of environment, they will still need armed security. So I'm wondering if there is an ability to attach some type of either special exception process or a crime parameter, so that this item targets the areas that need our law enforcement more so than others. Sometimes some senior facilities don't really have much crime, and I want to make sure that if there are senior facility developments or any other major developments coming in, they don't get deterred by this. So is that a possibility? Is something we're looking into to make sure that we're targeting the areas that have the most amount of calls for services and crimes and things of that nature?
Yes, that is our intent for second reading, Mr. Mayor.
All right. With that, then I have full support of this, and I thank the manager, Commissioner Kelly, and also Vice Mayor Davis for pushing this forward and bringing this to the attention of the commission. Is there any other comments on this item?
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke, Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes first reading.
All right. We have concluded our action items for tonight. Mr. Manager, your report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, commissioners and staff, and those that are watching. As everybody's aware, the first meeting of the month, I typically give a generalized update of what we've done over the last 2 weeks. And then the fourth Wednesday, I provide the 4 major challenges briefing by all the department heads. So this update is really going to just generalize and talk about what we've been doing over the last 2 weeks. Things that have been kind of normalizing in the city in regards to COVID-19 and school openings and dealing with various issues with that. We have, of course, 2 schools in our building that are either contemplating reopening or are reopening. And so we're kind of trying to tackle those issues and kind of figure out preventative measures to stop the spread of COVID. As everybody knows, the school being back in session and kids going back in the classroom. You've seen schools close down because of the transmission of COVID-19. And what I do not want to do is cause a spike within our building or within the community. So that's been very, very important to me to kind of do. I think beautification has kind of been like knocked upside of my head, like quite often in the last 3 weeks to a month. So we've invested a lot of money and a lot of energy and time in dealing with beautification. And I know Commissioner Kelly speak about himself and Commissioner Bass's beautification efforts last weekend. And hopefully we'll talk about that in future agenda items, that kind of how we want to address beautification moving forward. If it gives the commission any motivation, my staff threw me a $300,000 budget after the last commission meeting for beautification to be happen this budget year. And I said, hold on now. We're not just about to spend $300,000 on beautification and not have a staggered or a plan for spending the money. So staff had put in the effort, they had the planning in place, and we kind of scaled it back a little bit because we want to get input from the community as well as the commission in regards to beautification. As far as day-to-day operations and departmental reviews, as the mayor always says, city manager's office is always doing investigations and looking into things, and we're doing those things. And on a weekly basis, there's changes moving and ebb and flow within the city in regards to various areas. So, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces. I want to thank and appreciate the commission for all the support they provided me. This year I've been here. My 1-year anniversary is actually tomorrow with the city. And it's been a very good year as far as progress being made as far as steps. We have a 5-year plan that has been approved. Budget administrator doing an outstanding job along with our finance department, timely budget amendments, not a lot of budgetary surprises happening or occurring within the city. Got a little scared. Our COVID-19 testing facility shut down for 2 days without notice, but they're back open now. I think they had to temporarily man another testing site temporarily, but they are back open. Testing numbers are still low, and I foresee them to remain low until another spike happens. And as everybody's aware, when we opened up the testing center, we were testing 100 people, 95 people. Spike happened in Miami-Dade. We were testing 500 people the next day. So with the spike of COVID and the ebb and flow with the pandemic, those numbers are going to go up and down. In saying that, the testing site is saying that you guys are free to test anytime you want to as far as staff and the commission is concerned. They have no wait lines, so test as much as you want. This is included our staff in the building. And I will make sure HR kind of puts an emphasis on it. It's not mandated, but I will put an emphasis on it. If it's available, test as much as possible, especially if there's no waits. Especially with you and your family and various different things like that. As you hear in government, director of Department of Health, I want to say in Michigan or Indiana, her and her entire family got COVID-19, and she's the director of public health for a specific state. The President of the United States and his family just got COVID-19. So, we're susceptible to these things. This pandemic is still out here. It's not going anywhere. It seems like people feel like it's gone. It's really not. It's here. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. We just have to be more cognizant and be more adaptive to it. So as people kind of lax or become lackadaisical as far as enforcement, I'm going to start amping up enforcement, and that starts with our building and managing our properties and our facilities. In saying that, that concludes my report, unless any commission members or the mayor or vice mayor have any direct questions for me in regards to the city manager's office in general.
Anyone have any comments, questions for the manager?
Mr. Mayor? I guess there's a question. Mr. Manager, I know with regard to beautification, you said you're working on a comprehensive plan of how to do it based on funding, staffing, and I know you've got other things that come up, and you're waiting on our input as a commission. Do you envision what you're proposing or what you're looking at, any kind of program initiative? I was going to mention my report, but since you brought up beautification, something that we can engage the community in for a beautification effort?
So Dan, first, Commissioner Kelly, yes, I do have some thoughts on that, but I know there's a couple pending agenda future agenda items on the agenda that we're going to be discussing. You guys are going to be discussing beautification, and I kind of want to chime in at that time because it requires staff input with some of the items that may be proposed to go on a future agenda. But I do want to do more community initiatives similar to what you and Commissioner Bass did this weekend, focus on specific areas of Opa-Locka, of the community, and kind of theming that out and breaking it out budgetarily as far as resources. Like I said, Public Works, Mr. Austin had this very robust plan ready to go out, but I want to be able to, when we roll these programs out, I want to be able to put the program out and be able to sustain. I don't want to spend $200,000 on trees and then I can't trim the trees a year later because now they're overgrowth and there's various different things going on. So we want to kind of stagger how we put out vegetation or deal with beautification in general and kind of move forward from there. And that's why I'm looking for the commission's input, because I just, like I said, got a resident complaint as a couple of days ago, I think you all did, about uncut trees, standing several blocks, and Now I have to deal with Public Works and how to kind of deal with that issue, as well as keeping up with other beautification items.
Well, I bring, Mr. Mayor, I bring that up because there has been discussion, from the community. I've heard it since FPNL has done the lighting about the trees overhanging and you can't see, et cetera. And I know from our perspective, from a legal perspective, I'm told that it's the homeowner's responsibility, but I can tell you that's just not flying. So I'm quite sure it'll be a part of some discussion at some point, whether I'm here or not. So I just wanted to put that on the radar, and I'll look forward, to the discussion when they come up to the agenda items. But thank you for the efforts already. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? All right, Mr. Manager, I know there's a concern that brought to your attention in regards to bus benches throughout the city of Opa-Locka. We've seen those things be removed and missing, and we have many residents that are sitting on the ground of the bus, and quite a few things that are just unacceptable. I want to get an idea of where we are with, if you can let the public know what's going on with the bus benches and what we're doing to remediate that situation.
Okay, so as far as the bus benches are concerned, the city was entered into a contract with an entity that managed the bus bench program for a certain period of time within the city. That contract lapsed, and then from there, bus benches, because weren't owned by the city, was removed by that company or another organization or entity. I know over the last 3 or 4 months, we've floated a couple companies out there for vetting, and they've kind of fell off on vetting because they either didn't do good work at another municipality, or they weren't incorporated properly, or various different things like that. So I know it's a constant item, at least a monthly discussion that I have with Mr. Austin in the Public Works Department. So I will re-engage as you put out an inquiry yesterday in regards to it. I have a staff response due for Friday to see what our engagement efforts are. And I want to give you a summary of what we have done to show you, and the commission what we've done as far as attempting to address the issue. I think at the end of the day, it's finding the right firm and engaging in a fair and equitable contract for all parties involved that's going to benefit the city as well as benefit our residents as well. I can't hear you, Mr. Mayor. You're muted. I can't hear you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, now I think I'm ready now. You can hear me now. Okay, good. Thank you for that. I look forward to seeing that come to resolution. I know that last year, I know it's one big thing we want to make sure we talk about. Last year, we did a national search for our city manager, put a lot of investment in to get the best and brightest. We made sure that we selected a city manager that can come in here and go through our departments and really make sure that we do complete investigations to all of our departments and really lay a foundation for a new Opa-Locka and a new day in Opa-Locka. And over the past year, Mr. Pate has moved forward in that and did a lot of work in the police, as was noted earlier in the meeting. And there's investigation going on with code enforcement and other departments. Well, I know many people understand that and may have heard that our city manager has been a finalist in one of the most talked about cities in the nation, which George Floyd, Milwaukee. And at the moment, while we made an investment in Mr. Pate, there is bigger and better opportunities going on. And I would like to make sure that you take some time to address the public about this next move because we are invested in your changes here in the city of Opa-Locka.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, first, thank you for bringing up the elephant in the room. And in saying that, with a lot of prayer and a lot of guidance, You know, I am still very much torn. I have not made a determination. And again, as I tell everybody, I'm just a finalist out of 6 other individuals, highly qualified individuals, nationally known individuals within the United States. And we'll see what chips may be where they fall. I have had individual conversations with most of you all in regards to that. And I'll just leave it at that. It's not my intent to abandon the residents of Opa-Locka. It's not my intent to abandon my staff. I think it comes a time where you hit a point where you feel, even in such a short period of time, there's more things that need to be done, and either you have that level of support to get those things pushed through, or you come to a point where you brought the city to a point where the helm could be taken over. When I got here, the biggest thing were audits were not up to date, a 5-year plan was not done, there was no planning on a lot of things, slew of litigation, personnel issues all over the place. And we've pretty much been able to get a lot of that stuff quelled down, at least 80 to 90% of that. If I do leave, I think the city would be left in a pretty decent condition. But again, I have not made that decision. And as I've told the majority of this commission, you know, the fat lady has not sung, and I evaluate this on a daily basis. I'm very much conflicted on the matter. Some of you all are very much conflicted on the matter. Some of us have shared very emotional conversations on the issue. So a decision hasn't been made, but I will tell you this. The actions of those in the future can tell what happens with me in the future of Opa-Locka and the future of this community. I have been here and I have seen a lot of things in Opa-Locka that have been very great things, very favorable things, amazing things. And I've seen very bad parts of Opa-Locka as far as the tearing down of individuals and the demotivating techniques that individuals have put out in general in regards to just the city moving forward. And I've always been a front-facing person and trying to represent Opa-Locka in the best light possible. And I always have been. You read the news stories, you see the press releases. Opa-Locka has been spoken about more positively in this last year, or even the last 2 years since this new commission's been in place, since any time ever before. So in saying that, decision has not been made yet. I stay very much prayerful about it, and I ask for you guys' prayer and support as things move forward. But again, finalists out of 6. When we get to the point of me being chosen, then that's a hard discussion that we need to have, but we're not there yet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we want to make sure that we are transparent and clear and address the elephant in the room, because right now, this new commission, as a commission, we focus on legislation and the movement of this city, the day-to-day changes that's been going on, and completion of the 5-year recovery plan, the audit, and those things are relying upon the manager moving forward. And he's moved a lot of those things forward, and there's a lot of progress, and that we want to make sure continues to happen in the city of Opa-Locka, so that our residents are proud of the work that we're doing at this new administration. So we look forward to that. I want to make sure the residents are kept up to date with the latest on what's happening within the city of Opa-Locka, so that we can continue to shine and become a better city and bring about a new day here in the city of Opa-Locka. With that, are there any other questions, comments for the manager? All right, moving on to the Commissioner Bass.
Thank you so much. I don't want to sound like the broken record, but however, I will like to voice my support for our city manager. I am in a place of comfort with him, and where we have grown as a people in our city, as a commission. We don't have the bickering, at least you don't see the bickering, you don't see the fighting, and we're moving along as a unit. And me personally, I'm encouraging you, city manager, not to abort us, to stay the course, You're gonna run into challenges like we all do, but I'm putting it out there. I'm begging you, just stay put for a little bit. I know family first. I know mental status first, but I'm asking you to give us at least your contract before you decide to move forward. And had I not been pleased, had us as a people not been pleased with your work, I would be saying the complete opposite. I would be the first one to say, I'll see you. But that is not the case here. This is based on merit and progress of our city and the future that I see with you leading us. So thank you so much for the hard work that we as a commission have put in. And thank you for leading us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bass. All right. Hearing no further questions, comments, let's move on to our board reports. Madam Clerk, do we have any board reports?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burke.
to the clerk, Ms. Flores, our personnel board, what is the status of our personnel board?
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, Commissioner. Yes, Madam Clerk.
So the city clerk's office only handles the board applications as they come in, and we submit those to the city commission for appointments. Once individuals are appointed, the city manager is to appoint clerks to each of the boards. Now, I'm not sure what the status of that is in terms of the civil service board, but I'm not sure if a clerk has been appointed to that board so that they can start to meet.
Do we have we recruited or have we tried to recruit anybody for the civil service board, or is our civil service board activated?
Mr. Mayor?
You have the floor. Yes, you can respond, Madam Clerk.
So it is my understanding that there are 5 members that have been appointed to the Civil Service Board. There may be some vacancies since we do have an election in November. So there may be some vacancies and some individuals may need to be reappointed or appointed then. But as of now, there is 5 members on that board.
And Ms. Flores, they apparently have they been meeting, or is the board active or inactive, or?
Mr. Mayor, once again, I'm not sure if a board clerk has been appointed. Normally for the Civil Service Board, that would be someone from Human Resources that would clerk that board and take on those responsibilities. I'm not sure where we are in terms of that. Maybe the manager can respond to that question.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Flores. Thank you, Mayor.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, Mr. Manager.
You know, this is exactly the example of what I just brought up in my whole question to my dialogue. So the purpose of a personnel board, the way it's written here, is basically to oversee, kind of supersede the city manager and their personnel decisions. So basically I can make a personnel decision, that board can overturn my personnel decision. You know, so that does the city manager's office have day-to-day ultimate authority of the employees? I know at one time this board, it was existing, it worked very well, I heard, and at one time it was inactivated. So I don't, I would have to give it to clerk as far as the true research on that. I know if there's a board clerk required and one is being requested, I have no problem in doing that. The questions that are being asked of the clerk by Commissioner Burke could have been asked of me, and I could have done this research prior to the meeting instead of this being brought up in dialogue right now, because it's a surprise to me. And it seems like these are questions that are either written down or figured out, and I'm kind of in the dark on things. And I just want to make sure that we're going to move forward in a positive way, as we just discussed, as far as pro Opa-Locka and moving the city forward, that we're all on the same page when we kind of discuss these things. because I think at the end of the day, that's why commissioners have dialogue with their managers and managers have dialogue with their commissioners as far as their intent and their thought process. Every personnel decision I'm going to make here is not going to be perfect. I made some very controversial terminations most recently, and those things may not be popularly known or desired. But unfortunately, I'm in a position that I have to move the city in the right direction. If that's moving people around or people that no longer need to be here, need to be gone, then that's what needs to happen. For a personnel board to be discussed about maybe being reinvented or starting to meet or anything like that, especially with all the changes that we're making now, it does nothing but knock me 10 steps back. It knocks me 10 steps back and it stops progress. And so if we are going to think about moving the personnel board or civil service board forward, I would ask that this is something that is talked about in a workshop that I have no problem scheduling in the next 2 weeks. So we can have a very detailed and thorough discussion about it. Because I think this is going to be a very pivotal decision that this commission may have to make in regards to what direction we want to go as far as the movement of the city and dealing with personnel on a day-to-day basis.
Mr. Mayor, to the manager.
Commissioner Burke.
Mr. Manager, this has no bearing on you or your decisions. From my experience, I know the clerk is in charge of the boards. I've had citizens of the city inquire to me about our personnel board. And I had told my citizens that I would ask these questions at the next commission meeting. Now, the personnel board, I believe, is in our charter. And this in no way has anything to do with you or the decisions you have made. Some of my citizens have inquired about the personnel board, and I'm just bringing it to the commission meeting. That's it, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the official board reports?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a question.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Did I hear correctly? We have 5 members already appointed to the personnel board. Is that what I heard, or?
I would have to, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I can confirm in the morning. I don't have that file in front of me, but based on what I'm looking at the back of the agenda, I don't have any appointments listed for the Civil Service Board. So yes, I believe there are 5 members on that board as of now. But I can confirm that in the morning. And just to speak in terms of what Mr. Pate said, just for the record, this is the first time that Commissioner Burke has asked me those questions. I was not aware prior to now that those questions would have been asked. So, I just want to make that clear. And also that the clerk's office is responsible in terms of sending out letters when the appointments are made and when the terms are about to expire, as well as keeping records of all board applications and things of that nature. But once the appointments are made, it is the manager's responsibility to appoint clerks to all of the boards.
Okay, I'd like a detailed report on this board and how those appointments were made and the current status. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Vice Mayor Davis. Also, as a part of that, I want to echo the Vice Mayor's inquiry and also add that we can identify how many of our boards have clerks and operational clerks that are making sure that the boards are meeting and providing reports to the commission during this official board report time. Right.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, any other items on, any other discussion points on our official board reports? All right, moving on to our future agenda items, starting with the first by Commissioner Bass. Commissioner Bass, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Like I've stated before in when we first put this on the agenda, it's very simple. Basically, we all get to choose the street, park, whatever public space that we would like to be held responsible for as it relates to the beautification of it. And I was also thinking that Number 4 on the agenda, under 19, the beautification standard that you spoke about, Vice Mayor, Mayor Paget, can also intertwine with that. We can kind of put it together and make it one. And I think that would simplify it with having the standards for whatever area we choose. Very simple.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Bass. I also, and due to the community cleanup that we did this past weekend, hosted by you and Commissioner Kelly, we noticed that there were some residents that were engaged and wanted to be a part of this. So I'm wondering if instead of each commissioner adopting a certain area of the city, a certain part, how about we actually do a beautification board and appoint, and we as commissioners appoint people to that board who can, I guess, give us reports and get understanding of this beautification. And they will be a part of making sure that the management is meeting certain standards when it comes to beautification and accountability, and being able to provide that level of reporting to the commission and those new ideas that we can bring into this city to make sure that our residents and everyone is proud moving forward with beautification. So I would love to see staff develop something like that, and wonder if that in combining those two items, Commissioner Bass, is that something that you'd be open to?
I mean, we can discuss it, but being frank, we have so many boards that are halfway, utilized, halfway working. In my opinion, it would just be most likely another board that would sit dormant. So I feel as if we, as leaders in the community, team up with the resident and be a part of it. I believe it would be more successful than creating just another board to say we have another board. And we all know that our boards are not functioning 100%. It would just be added, another board. My thoughts.
Any other points on this item?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. I guess just to kind of speak to Commissioner Bass' idea, since yours is kind of ahead on the agenda, I kind of agree with it. Of course, I would like to see something, coordinated, between the, within the city and not two separate, I guess, beautification initiatives, if you will. I do see the value in what, Commissioner Bass is, is presenting, which is ultimately, taking a more place-based, approach. And, I do see the benefits in that. When I was working for the Opa-Locka CDC, we did, that type of work in the triangle where we, focused a large amount of, federal resources to kind of redevelop a certain area of the community. And, Opa-Locka does kind of have that spirit. We're a very small community, 4.5 square miles. So the great thing about being so small is that you really could get your hands around the city, right? We could really manage it, right? So, that was the attempt, with our redevelopment initiative in the triangle, was to, redevelop parks and do that kind of thing. So, I mean, I do see the benefit in it. I would just hope that it would be coordinated, with a more larger scope of beautification throughout the city. So, wherever we kind of meet, I'm in support of it either way. So I just hope we kind of coordinate those efforts.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. I like the idea of the commission adopting an area, what have you. As indicated, we got enough boards because at one time the Recreation Activities Board did a part of beautification for residential areas where they gave out little signs and things like that. But again, the way our boards are structured now, the way they're not really meeting. And I think if we're going to invest dollars, we got dollars that are available, the commission needs to take a hands-on approach with this. However, as the Vice Mayor said, the city's not that big, to be able to divide up and take an area, but to really take some ownership and making sure these areas or these initiatives get done. All of us know that if we're hands-on in these areas, it's more likely that it's going to get the push not only from the community, the business community, and from the manager, obviously, because we're committed to that area, to that zone, what have you. So I would really encourage that you would pursue it from that way and not make it a board led effort, because you could wind up getting 5 people, depending upon how you select it, from in one area. I mean, it could take you forever to even put board together. I think the beautification initiative for the city, it's right before you. You have revenue, not revenue, but you have funding available to do some things. So I think you should set up in such a way where the commission does take some ownership in zones, or however you want to call it. And the reason I say that is because I think with the funding that you have, not only just the zones or the areas, but to really create a name for it. You have the PR firm, but you can come up with some kind of even slogan, something that really catches the attention of the community. I had already had Mr. Grice working on some things from other cities and what they're doing in terms of beautification and language and or signs to capture and get the community involved. So that's another area to add to that, to this discussion, because that's what it's going to take, in my opinion. But I think you need to move forward with the idea of the commission taking real ownership of it and not putting it to a board. But it's a great time to do it, in my opinion, going forward now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Any other discussion on this item? All right, I want to vote to move this forward as a future agenda item. Madam Clerk?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Was that a question?
Yes, from what I understand, is under future agenda items, we have to vote as a commission to move this forward, so that staff can develop the language and the terminology, so it can be put forth as a resolution, ordinance, or whatever it needs to be. And if I'm not mistaken, that we have to vote to approve it.
I would ask the city attorney to clarify, because I'm still a little bit, I was confused at the last meeting, and I'm still not clear on how the whole future agenda item, but if a vote is required, then that's fine, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I this was really just for a discussion, but if it is the will of the commission to have a vote on it, it's more this was a discussion, as you all had, where the manager would come back and bring information, and you would consider the information that was brought or not, and decide something different or whatever you decide to do. So if it's the direction of the commission that you're moving in some manner, and you want legislation drafted, then if you could give some idea about what that's supposed to be, and we'll just bring it back. But it's not necessary that you have a vote, but if you decide to do that, you certainly could. It's not necessary.
May I make a suggestion, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Manager.
Maybe after these meetings, if Madam Clerk could just send us like a little note saying, these are the items that the commission discussed and wanted to move forward for development, we can kind of create a form and I can get started and moving the stuff forward. I think we do need to have some way of memorializing it, maybe not a vote, but something in writing via email or something saying, this is what the discussion is, move forward for development, and then I can get my staff started immediately. But I need to kind of be clear on those things.
Mr. Mayor?
Madam Attorney, from what I understand, the intent of this item and future agenda items is so that we as a commission can propose ideas. We can discuss those ideas. If we see validity in those ideas, we can then move those ideas forward to where staff and manager and yourself can develop a resolution so that we can execute on it. So that we as individuals aren't requesting a lot of items and it doesn't have the support in order to move it, in which our staff will have to invest time into developing. So if
that is correct, Mr. Mayor, and all I'm saying is that you don't necessarily need a vote at this point. As long as you're giving direction as to how you want to proceed, then the manager I can work with the manager and we can get back with legislation about whatever the issue may be. But I think what the manager may be saying, I'm not sure, you can correct me if I'm right, if I'm wrong, Mr. Pate, is he wants some type of process, not necessarily a vote, but he would also like to have some direction.
So per parliamentary procedure and also our charter as a commission, in order to provide guidance to the manager, we must, as a commission, as a unit, direct the manager to do so. So how do we do that without a vote?
Yeah, you just like how you all have in all of these meetings before, you have your ideas about whatever you want, and it somehow magically ordinances and resolutions appear. But here you're allowing yourself to talk it out, publicly. You don't have to have a vote on it. You can give direction as to what and the manager can take all of the ideas, try to merge those things. And I will be working with him to do that, to try to come up with some legislation that meets the intent of what the majority of you want to do for your consideration. So it's not necessary that you have a vote right now. I think if the manager understands what it is that you're trying to do, then we'll come back with something that hopefully meets everybody's appetite.
Mr. Mayor. Hello?
Commissioner Kelly? Yeah.
I see someone on the screen. Is that me? Are you on the screen? I don't know.
Oh, sorry. That was, oops.
Do I have the floor, or I don't know? I saw someone on the screen. Am I on, Mr. Mayor? I don't know.
Yeah, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is one of my concerns when we first came up with this concept. It was very unclear to me how it moved forward, because it's always been my understanding to give direction like this, you need 3 votes. But if we're not going to vote, how is the manager going to really capture it all without giving him some kind of blueprint? He's suggesting that the clerk gives some bullet points, but would those bullet points be everything we said, which kind of may conflict? I've always been concerned about how this process is going to work. So this is probably a good opportunity to try to flush it out in this setting before you have some real tough issues that come down the pipe that needs to be on the agenda. Because the way this is written, according to the attorney, if I'm not mistaken, the agenda item for this or this discussion will not take place until the next meeting or the meeting after.
There will be, if you all choose to have legislation, Mr. Mayor, through the mayor, if you all choose to have legislation written, we can do that. If you, normally it's not a vote at this point, it's just it's a talk through. You might talk through the issue and then we would come back and have some legislation, because now we know you want to do something, you don't want to do something. And so maybe, Mr. Mayor, if you believe that a vote is in order, then you can start doing it by a vote. That's fine. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. If you'd like to do that, all I'm saying is I don't know that it's necessary, because we may find that through research or wherever else something can't be done and you've already voted on it. But if you give a general idea of a direction that you want to head in, and that's the majority of you want to do that, then we'll figure out a way to do it. But if you want to vote, go ahead and vote. I just don't know if whatever you're voting on, once it's, manager does whatever he needs to do to try to pull together everything that you're saying you want to do, if it is going to look like exactly like what you vote on. So the idea is that you were right, Mr. Mayor, that you would have a discussion about it. And if there's a will to move forward, there would be, the manager would have that direction, and he would work with us to come up with language to do what you want to do.
Mr. Mayor. I understand that fully, Madam Attorney. The conflict I have is, in listening to discussion, I heard two opposites. I heard community with the commission leading. The mayor made a suggestion of creating a board. So that's two opposites. So that's why I said you either got to vote, we're going to do a board, or we're going to do a community, or, I mean, I heard two different things in this case. So which one would the manager pursue, or is he going to bring back both options to us?
Right, that's a good question. So the issue that was brought forward was one that was brought forward by Commissioner Bass. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Were you talking?
Yes. One moment. Commissioner Kelly, I wanted to, and just so we can wrap up this conversation and be a little more focused with this, I brought up the actual original ordinance that we have here for this future agenda items. And if we go down to the section where it says future agenda items, it states that under future agenda items, unless otherwise set forth with the hearing, City Commission shall agree by a majority vote on items to be placed on the commission agenda. So if we can just—
You've done that, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, you've done that already. You've done that to get it on this agenda. It's not like you're doing it again. You've already done that to have it here for you all to discuss. And it's the item that's brought by the person who is making the item. So if, for instance, and forgive me for interrupting, but if for instance, it's Commissioner Bass who's bringing the item and there's not support for the item, there's not support for the item. It doesn't go forward. Maybe you put on this agenda whatever your idea is, and then you discuss it on the next agenda. And then if your item goes forward, it goes forward. But it's not a merging of any issues. It's not even complicated. It's just whatever that person brings up. She had she had a majority vote to bring it on this agenda. You all have talked about it. If three of you don't agree to bring it forward, that's a good example of why Commissioner Bass wanted this issue to come before you in the first place, because then you don't have the manager doing a whole bunch of stuff, and everybody working, brings something and another item that gets voted down at the next meeting. So now you talked about it, it's her item that's being considered. It's not a compromise on her item unless she wants it to be. That's her item. And so you can vote, you can decide it doesn't have enough support, and if it doesn't, it's just gonna be dead right here.
I want to take the consensus of the commission on how we would like to move forward in regards to this. And if we need to amend this future agenda items so that we put a little more clarity on how we move forward with this. Right now, is it the will of the commission to propose an item for future agenda items, and then it's placed under future agenda items, and then we discuss that item again? And then based upon the discussion, the manager moves if they should choose, or do we want to make a declarative vote on those future agenda items so they move for resolution, so that we're very clear on how to move forward as a commission? Thoughts?
Mr. Mayor? Yes, I brought this up when this came up because to me, nothing will get passed for legislation for almost 2 meetings based on the way the structure is. So we need to amend it because number one, I interpret it the same way. There needs to be a vote taking place. I thought that vote comes tonight in some directive way so the manager knows what he is or staff is going to bring back. But the reason I believe it's challenging is because you have something that's being proposed by Commissioner Bass. Your component, while you agree with the overall item, you have a different structure. So the manager can't go back and do both like he could if we just told him to. He's going to come back with basically competing or whatever things. I think if the ordinance says to vote, attorney's saying we've already voted. I didn't quite interpret it that way, but she's the attorney. So to me, if that's the case, you just give the direction. I guess the manager has to interpret what the commission or the will of the committee the commission is. I think this really needs to be flushed out personally, because although this issue of beautification is not a hot button issue, there's going to come a time when there's going to be some hot button issues that you all are going to deal with. And if you get it caught up in this, did it get the support? Did it get it this way without some real declaration? It could be challenging. That's just my thoughts. I think this is pretty easy, but I think going forward, you can clarify how this process is going to work and to make sure things get to the agenda in a timely manner that may require, not sitting out there for a meeting or an extra meeting. But I'm fine. I'll go with the attorney. If she says we don't need to vote, then I guess we don't need to vote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Mayor, if I just may.
Hold on, Madam Attorney. Hold on, Madam Attorney. Any other thoughts from colleagues?
Mr. Mayor, I mean, in my opinion, I'm somewhere along the lines as Commissioner Kelly. I mean, I feel like, that's the whole purpose of getting consensus is, get something in stone. I mean, I don't think it has to be as formal as a yes vote and record it on the record or anything. Even if we, just kind of say who's against it, right? We could take consensus from there. So I don't know how formal it has to be, but I do think some sort of, record keeping, some sort of official word from the Diaz needs to occur. So that's just my input.
Mayor Paget?
Commissioner Bass?
I brought this item to us because of what the League of Cities said during the meeting we had a couple months ago. I thought it was a good idea then, and I'm still thinking that it is. But at the same time, I don't want this to be where we're set back and not being able to move forward. So whatever it is we need to do to make sure that all of us understand the process, I think that's what we need to do, because we don't want to, be in a place where we're confused. Some of us are, some of us are not, because if we're confused, we're not going to make the right decisions about anything. So whatever it takes for us to have to sort this out, I think that's what we need to do.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may. Yeah, I think you all should allow yourselves, this works really well in many, many, many other cities, and it was a suggestion of the league. It really does work well. And unfortunately, this issue came up tonight as your very first item, where I guess you have two different things that you want to do or you'd like to do. And maybe you can just allow just to see, maybe we can get beyond this, just so you all can see. You had the readings, it was been published, you had the notice. Why not allow the manager to see if he can come back, having listened to everybody, and see if he can come back that may, with the legislation at the next meeting, that may meet what everybody said. We'll go back, we'll listen to the tape, we'll see what everybody's saying, we'll see if we can come up with something that you can actually see, and then decide, when the legislation comes back. If most times there's clear, a majority on something, and people move forward. And like I said, I think it's just this first time, and you get stuck in the first time trying to, with something that you have two different views on, and I think you expressed similar things even when you brought the issue up at the last meeting to talk about it. So that's always been out there. You've had two different ideas on what you wanted to do. But the way that it's supposed to work is the person who has the idea, that person's idea gets considered. And then, if there's something else, maybe you agree to something else. But here it doesn't. I guess you still have two different ideas, and there's no compromise necessarily. But maybe we can come back with something. You can allow us to come back with something, and then let's see how that may work. Allow us to, we heard you, maybe we can listen to it. Maybe we can come back with something that kind of meets everybody's goal. And maybe the next item may be a little bit easier to get through that before you kind of throw it all away, because it really does work well. And it really does allow staff to plan better if you can, try to do this. Many cities do it, and it really does work well.
I know based upon our codes, each of us has the ability and the power to propose legislation. This item is Commissioner Bass's item. For a discussion item, I proposed an idea for the item that is not a conflict or duality. It is Commissioner Bass's item. And I think that we need to move that forward. So just for us to have it clear, I think it is important for us to have some type of yay, nay that we want to move this item forward for development. So just for the purpose of tonight, until we get more clarity so we can move on, let's just voice our support for Commissioner voice our whatever decision we want to make for Commissioner Bass's item moving forward. Can Madam Clerk, could you just go down the line and just let people be clear that we want this item to move forward?
Mr. Mayor, can I throw in one caveat? I'm sorry.
Mr. Manager, go ahead.
So today is a commission meeting. The agenda items for next commission meeting are due next Monday. So that would give me and staff 3 days to get it to the city attorney, get it to the clerk, upload in Granicus, get it to the city attorney by Monday for your agenda briefing next Wednesday. So I need specifications. You want the very next commission meeting? Because that's cutting it real close. Next two commission meetings from now, fine. But if you're talking about the next commission meeting, I can tell you that's going to be very difficult based on how our timelines are with agendas.
Commissioner Bass, you want to provide some guidance and when you would like this item to be moved forward?
I will definitely like this item to be moved forward. And I know it's complicated now because it's new, but I know it's going to get better. Thank you.
The manager's asking when. Does it want it on this upcoming agenda, or is there another agenda? And I think that's what the manager is asking for in terms of guidance.
Okay, I apologize for that. Let's just go with not this one, but after, just so we have enough time to really, work it. Would that be okay?
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk.
So am I doing the roll call, Mr. Mayor?
This is a motion on the floor to move all these agenda items. Everything is a motion based. So for just this moment, until we get very clear, let's just make sure that it's clear that we have this support. And you can and if you don't want to do it, Madam Clerk, can I get everyone to say yes or no pretty quickly? All right.
I have an issue with it, Mr. Mayor. I'm just asking for clarification. So, Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
This is on Commissioner Bass's item, yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Tigert?
Yes.
And just for the record, Commissioner Burke had to leave the meeting early. So I did, so that support is 4-0 for the beautification project sponsored by Commissioner Bass.
All right, next agenda item is protection. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So this is in relation to Mrs. Fuchs' presentation. As you know, she came out and presented at a commission meeting, just talked about some of the protections that are in place for employees and the lack thereof for our workers that are classified as independent contractors. And then the effort to bring, equity and just, being more transparent and more fair to the people who we employ to do work and we contract with. I proffered the item for discussion. I didn't get a chance to, speak with the attorney about, some of the issues she might have with, with our particular situation as it relates to our vendors and, you know, the debt that's kind of owed with that and how that kind of might play into this. But, you know, I just wanted to bring it forth, you know, to have that discussion, because if it is the case, you know, I think it needs to be decided as a board.
All right. So we want to move this item forward. Do you have any guidance for the manager on when or the attorney on when you would like this to be placed on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Well, I mean, it seems that the manager is under a tight timeline. So, I mean, for me, it's not, you know, it's not a issue of, you know, of immediate importance. But I do want to see it addressed, and I would like to see a full analysis take place. So, you know, with that being said, it doesn't have to be the next meeting, or, you know, I yield to the managers, you know, when he think is best to kind of analyze the issue.
All right, Mr. Manager, could you provide your recommendation or your insight into this item?
Sure. I ask that the Vice Mayor allow myself and the city attorney to confer on the item because of certain liabilities that may occur with our liability insurance by adding this additional level of protection. It may have some ramifications on our premium and different coverages that we may need. And we've already just did a renewal. So either myself or the city attorney, I'm sure we'll both be in contact with him in the next week or so to kind of talk through it and then go from there.
Thank you.
All right, and let's see if it's the will of the commission to move this item forward. Madam Clerk?
Yes. Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Mayor Pygott?
Yes.
And just for the record, Mr. Mayor, if I may state something, the deadline for the October 28th meeting was Friday, October 9th. It is not next Monday, Mr. Manager.
I'm sorry, my dates are all off. Yeah, I just signed a whole bunch of packets the other day. You're right, my bad.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the other agenda item is the orientation for elected officials after the municipal election to include strategic planning, accountability plan for the manager. The purpose and intent of this is that we should, as a commission, make sure that we have a strategic planning time dedicated so that we can make sure that we are moving the city forward on some strategic plans. And that level of guidance helps the managers to set priorities for the rest of the year and for us to be able to hold accountable to that. And with newly elected officials or effectuals coming in, I think it's very important that they get a complete understanding of the city, the various departments, what are the goals, the objectives, and how to move forward. And I want to make sure that that is established within the city of Opa-Locka so that if people get elected, they're not coming in and just, they know what they're supposed to do, how government works and all those things. And right now, we do not have any formal process to orient leaders within the city of Opa-Locka that have been duly elected by the commission, and also a set time in which we strategically plan. This also helps with our state of the city so that we are very clear about our goals and where we are and how we're moving forward. So I'm proposing that we put this item forward so that either during November, December, most likely December or January, we have that meeting or those planning sections or those workshops so that we're very clear about where the city is moving forward and our duly elected leaders have that. So that's the intent of the item. Mr. Manager, do you have any guidance on that?
Mr. Mayor, I asked for 1 month for development. Since we have election come up in November, kind of comes a little bit right on time. So we can have something in future agenda item in November. Probably just going to be a modification amendment of the strategic planning ordinance. Just adding in there that each off-cycle year where a new election happens, this language changes within the current ordinances that we have. It's not a huge deal. It's just making sure it's the right language.
All right. Yeah, we'll definitely like to make sure this is on the November 11th agenda item, so that it can be moved past. And
No, there's no meeting on November. That's Veterans Day, Mayor.
So Mr. Mayor, so I was gonna bring that up in this meeting, to see if the commission wants to make a determination in terms of the November 11th meeting, since it is a legal holiday.
All right, so we have a per hour charter. We're supposed to meet every second and fourth Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And I know that we usually on Thanksgiving and Christmas time, we forego that meeting. Is management proposing that we change the date of our commission meeting, or how's that working?
That's a federal holiday where employees are off work. So there will be no employees on the clock working on that day. So we would have to move it to another day. Wherever the commission desires. I don't have, my staff works at your whim. It just can't be on the 11th. It could be the day before, it could be the day after. It just can't be on the 11th.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let me look at the calendar, Mayor.
Any proposal or the date? Like, we need to be clear.
I propose November 18th.
So that is the third Wednesday in November.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor?
Madam Attorney?
I just wanted to put on the record, the city is allowed to cancel meetings. And I think you all have done that on occasion. You don't have to have a meeting makeup date. You can cancel a meeting if you choose.
Okay. So from my experience, and Commissioner Kelly, since you're the vet here, I definitely would like to get your guidance on this. But based upon my time being here, we have usually canceled the second meeting in November because it's usually the day before Thanksgiving. So to cancel a whole month of meetings in November, I'm not comfortable with that. So yes, Commissioner Kelly, please provide your insight.
Yeah, I think obviously, as the manager said, 11 doesn't work. I think if there's something special comes, he can call a special meeting. I think the 18th puts it right in the middle, because you're right. Normally, the commission does not meet on that Wednesday before Thanksgiving to give everyone a break with their families. I think that'll be especially good this year. So I would suggest that the commission make that 18th at 7 p.m. for the meeting, and that way the clerk and the manager can advertise any items they may have in a timely manner, so they will be here. Let me just say for the record, I will not be available on the 18th. I want to say, but I would agree the 18th ought to be the date, and that way they could, schedule, advertise as need be, and already have a firm date in mind. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, my colleagues, anyone has any issues with the Wednesday, the 18th? Okay, hearing none. As we'll have our next meeting will be November 18th. Our meeting in November will be the 18th. Is that something we need to vote upon?
Yes,
Madam
yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So do I have a motion to change our meeting dates in November to cancel the November 25th meeting and move our November 11th meeting to the 18th?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Kelly?
I move that we cancel the 11th meeting, change it to the 18th at 7 p.m. and also cancel the last meeting in November as well.
All right, do I have a second?
I second it, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Vice Mayor Davis. Madam Clerk, will you need discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor, it's Bob. May I step in for a second? Just a reminder that there won't be a budget amendment in November, and it's going to take 2 hearings.
All right, Mr. Manager.
We're just gonna have to call, we got to get back to you on that. I'm gonna just have to talk to the budget administrator and come out with a timeline and then talk to the state. Because then now we're talking about advertisement and, and getting budget, that's too big of a conversation for at this point. It's gonna take a little coordination. Madam Clerk, your thoughts?
Madam Clerk.
I agree with the manager, Mr. Mayor. But we need to set up some timelines in terms of the advertisement, and we need to see, you know, when that item is going for first and second reading to be able to determine those dates.
Mr. Mayor?
All right. I would like to make sure that these decisions can give more guidance before these commission meetings so that we're very clear on how we're moving forward. So I'm still at a loss. We do have a motion and a second here on the floor. It seems as though there's still continued conversation. So Commissioner Kelly, could you, yeah.
I'm trying to understand what is the challenge with scheduling the meeting for the 18th at 7? If the manager deems that they need to do something, an alternative date with the state after the discussion, it still be under his purview. He could call a special meeting, but by the 18th, we wouldn't have an idea for the clerk to be able to advertise the first one if there's a need to. I think you have enough time. If not, I'm not understanding that part of the answer that the manager gave in terms of not being able to do that. Maybe you can clarify it for me.
All right, Mr.
Mayor.
Manager.
Commissioner, I'm sure I can make the determination now for the 18th. I just have not spoken to staff, and we're in the middle of a meeting. I have to talk to the budget administrator. I got to see when the first reading of the budget amendment will be ready to come before the commission. So instead of just throwing dates out there and having confusion, I just want to kind of confer with my staff and confer with the clerk because she has her requirements as well. That's the only, I'm just doing on the side of caution. We can make a determination and make it work. I'm just moving on the side of caution just because of just trying to do things right in order. I just don't want to spontaneously say something and then tomorrow it's not going to work. And then now we've already committed to the commission with something that we can't commit to because of staff issues or staff needs more time to develop or whatever issue may come about.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Could you maybe defer this motion to the October 28th meeting so that staff can get more clarity on the meeting schedule that will be ideal for the conduction of city business in November?
I don't have a problem with it. I was just trying to, we just know we're not meeting on the 11th because that's a holiday, but they can defer and then they can come back with a better timeline. So I'll remove the motion.
All right. And then let's make sure that there's consensus amongst us as a commission in terms of schedules and staff about how we are going to make sure that we conduct city business on November. So look forward to that. So back to the main item in terms of the orientation. This is something that needs to be put in place for this upcoming few months. Yeah, it needs to be ASAP. So I would like, yeah, as soon as this gets on the agenda, can we vote on this orientation and strategic planning, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kelly? Commissioner Kelly?
We're just voting on the orientation now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
Definitely, yes.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Pygott?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 4-0 vote.
All right. So for this, the next item for the development of a standard beautification detail plan, this would have been just a simple resolution directing the manager to make sure that we have a plan before us as a commission on how beautification is being taken care of throughout the city, and also what is that maintenance schedule. The manager did show us a schedule last time, but as he mentioned, there's like a $300,000 budget or something of that nature that they're trying to put together. This is just a formal request from us as a commission to be clear about what we're going to do to ensure that our city has a standard of beauty throughout the city of Opa-Locka, and to see what that looks like, how much it costs, all those things. Yeah, and even if it's allocating funding for the Commissioner Bass's item about a certain budget for the commission to adopt streets, whatever the case, we just want to make sure that we're very clear about what we are doing as a city, and making sure the manager is putting together a plan within hopefully the next 30, 60 days. That's the proposed item. Any discussion on the future? Mr. Manager, your thoughts?
By the time you pass the item, the plan will already be done, but you guys we can do a resolution directing me to come up with such a plan, but by the time you can do it, it's gonna be done. We're actually in process of doing it. We're dealing with the budget piece of it right now. So you're still your determination.
All right, so if that's the case, and now we'll withdraw this, so we already have a commitment. When is the plan going to be proposed to us as a commission?
30 days. You'll have it in 30 days. I already had to shrink it. It was kind of robust. I had to shrink it down a little bit. And then we're already going to do stuff on a quarterly basis. And then you guys might want to move some pieces around. Like you guys may want to have different things done at different times of the year. It may be a little bit different, but we'll have something together. Trust me, beautification, been dreaming about it every day for the past 3 weeks.
All right. So then I would withdraw that item at the moment. So that concludes our future agenda items. Any mayor commission reports? Anyone have a report?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues, the city manager, Parks and Rec, the police department, our sponsors, ProCuts and Carolina Housing, and our volunteers. A few weeks ago, we were able to provide over 200 book bags to our drive-through book bag giveaway and supplies. So I want to thank them and everyone for their involvement with that. I also want to thank the residents in the community, my colleagues, and under the direction of the manager, Mr. King and his staff, and even our budget administrator, and the community for the beautification effort, the Coachman Garden and the roundabout this past Saturday. I've heard a lot of positive feedback from the community, even a lot of the kids excited to see the beautification around that roundabout, which many of them have to walk to see. And so as you develop the overall big plan for the beautification, I'm hopeful that it's the beginning of obviously more to come. And keeping in mind that it just can't be a city effort, but it has to be a joint effort between government and community. Also, the community feeding that we do every Tuesday is still ongoing. And contrary to what many or some may think, there's still a need. There is still a food challenge. Just this past week, to highlight, we had close to 300 cars come through before 11 a.m. We actually were there a little after 11, giving out food because there is still a food challenge. With that in mind, I'm co-hosting along with Commissioner Burke a farm share
Let me
distribution
tell you something.
on Friday, October 23rd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. drive-through. And just so you know, we had to postpone that one early in the year because of COVID-19, and they were able to give us this date before the year is out as a replacement.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing this one on that particular date. And as always, we ask our volunteers and all those who come out and help us out for that particular date. I am very thankful of the staff and volunteers who come out every Tuesday to assist us in doing what we can in the community. Finally, just so the commission will know, we are awaiting the final approval from the county so that we can schedule the street naming and key presentation to our Austin County Commissioner, Commissioner Jordan. So please be on the lookout from the clerk for that information. As soon as we get a confirmation from the county, we're going to try to schedule that where everybody can be a part of that, as we recognize her for all of her years of efforts and service and helping Opa-Locka with many of our challenges we've had throughout the years. And so that's coming as well. Thanks again. That concludes my report, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Any other reports?
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Real quick, so as you guys will know, I've been working on just looking at resources to provide, hopefully, rental assistance for our residents here in the city of Opa-Locka. As you all know, we're a highly occupied renter community. We have about 4,000 renter households in our city, so we definitely want to do our due diligence and ensure that that we are reaching out and fighting for every dollar that's due to our respective residents. In doing so, I've reached out to Commissioner Jordan as well as Commissioner Levine Carver in regards to the $25 million set aside that has been available for cities for COVID-19 related programs. So as you know, in the city of Opa-Locka, we submitted a rental assistance program. And we have yet to have the county commission kind of weigh in. I believe it's slated to appear on the 27th or 28th, the agenda on that date for the county commission meeting. So I encourage, my colleagues as well as any residents to contact, your county commissioner and just contact our county commissioners and just say, hey, we need that. Opa-Locka, we don't have, the same sort of liberties as slightly larger size cities. They get, SHIP funding, CDBG funding, a lot of funds directly that are associated with their population size. So definitely, want to, as a commission and, as a community, put our best foot forward and make sure that we are fighting for those funds. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other reports? All right. With that, I do want to thank all the residents that were involved in the community cleanup this past Saturday, and the sponsors to that, and Commissioner Kelly and Commissioner Bass for hosting that project. The park looks beautiful. Coachman Gardens look beautiful, and it's a huge improvement where it was at. So much respect for those who are involved. Look forward to seeing how we can move the city forward with the rental assistance. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for moving on that. And it just goes to show that we've been moving this city forward with tackling our 4 major challenges with our finances, our audits, our streets. We have a street program that's going to be starting up in the next few weeks. We're going to remill over 6 miles of streets. So we're excited about things that are moving forward. And I just want to thank all the staff, the manager office, the attorney, the clerk, and all the staff that's been committed to moving this city forward during the COVID-19. So thank you, thank you, thank you. With that, that concludes our mayor commission reports. Are there any official board appointments, Madam Clerk?
No,
All right. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Davis. Everyone have a beautiful evening.